Welcome back everyone to episode 2 of our beginner's guide on Factorio. In the last episode we got some basic smelting up for iron and for copper. We also got burner mining drills set up for stone and did a loop of those for coal. And finally concluded the episode by setting up steam power. In this episode we're going to put electric mining drills all over our iron ore patch and hopefully also get a nice full setup for a smelting center. Now again, all these things are supposed to be modular, not dependent on another, so while this is a very dependent setup, we're going to feed the smelting center by transport belt. I already have this gray blue, it's like a blueprint of the electric mining drill put down here. You can do that, by the way, just by pressing shift when you left click instead, and you can erase them just by dragging right click across it. But actually, that's where I've decided to put this first one, and we'll put 2 there, and then we'll get 1, and then 1 more, 2 more, and even a fourth one on the bottom. I try to keep things as symmetric as possible in terms of number of mining drills, just because I like my transport belt eventually, which is where these are all going to be fed, or where they will all feed to. I like the transport belt itself to be balanced. By the way, since we're ABC, always be crafting, I'm going to get a few more electric mining drills, and then one of the things we're going to need to set up a smelting center correctly is going to be some research with red science. So after getting a few more electric mining drills, and maybe we'll even get a few more after that, ABC, always be crafting, right? So maybe some transport belt after that. And then, of course, it's always nice to just use some of your excess iron with to get more iron gear wheels. So let's get back to it then. We have this setup, and I want to talk a little bit about why I'm doing this setup, because I did use it for the steam power. I do this 1, then 2, 2, 2, 2, and then I bookend the very end as well with a 1. The reason I do this is because it's very efficient in terms of electric power lines. The small electric poles have a reach of 7, which means that between one pole and the next you have 6 tiles. And that's perfect if you have 2 objects which are size 3. You can fit both in the middle, and the left electric pole in this scenario or example is going to be able to power the right object, and an additional one on the left, which is why we bookend with the 1 and then we go 2, 2. Basically, if you want to think about it, this is the single unit. It's 1 electric pole surrounded by 4 of these electric mining drills. But we don't need a space between this and the next one, so this is the next clump. And that's the same way I kind of talked about it with steam engines. So that's the reason, the method to my madness, explained a little bit more. It's very efficient in terms of electric power poles, but those aren't something you really need to be that efficient with. It's kind of like almost an OCD thing, or I don't want to use OCD, let's just say aesthetically pleasing, which is really where I find it. Now I'm going to break my 1, 2, 2, 2, 2 thing to do one more here, and we'll see why that is in a second, because we're going to do the next, then go back to doing it wrong. We're going to do it right, and one more over there. So now it's time to set up this belt. I know that this is not going to have a bottom yet, but that's fine. We'll get there eventually. And this is going to be all the way over there. So let's get the electric poles up. Clink. And clink. Now, what we'll notice is the distance between the top line here and the bottom line here is actually 8. So you can see 7 would be here, but 8 is here. I need to put this electric pole right next to the transport belt. It has to be here in order for it to cross the transport belt, and you can see the little blue shaded area over there. It means I'll actually be able to power things on the opposite side of the line. So for this pole to serve its purpose, which means to power the 4 nearest electric mining drills, it has to be right next to the transport belt, which we can't reach exactly, which means we need some kind of intermediary. Well, instead of putting this electric mining drill here, I want the space of 1, and I'm going to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I need to power this anyway, and I could technically put the pole here, or, lots of different options, even here, if I wanted to get to this one. But if I put the pole here, I can actually run my power line I can connect with the electric power pole here. Why am I doing it that way? Well, let's take a look at one other thing. In order for two sets to be connected, which means that we don't need to do this weird behavior, I want the electric power poles on the top of this belt, which is closer to this one, and therefore on this side on the bottom, which is closer to this one. So every two sets of rows of electric mining drills, I can actually leave them connected. I don't need this kind of strange behavior. Normally what I would do in between these two if I didn't have an opportunity like that is just run a single connecting one like that, and the next one will be like this. And this is where all my electric poles will be here, and then we can get one right there as well. Okay. And I'm gonna have to, I only have 4 more. I mean, ABC always be crafting, right? Might as well get a few more. Oh, we're gonna need 2 labs, so let me get those as well. And then just continue to produce gear wheels and some electronic circuits in the meantime. Alright, so we have a few more of these ready to go. Let me just do shift though, to make my point. So, in order to get, I want the electric pole on the south side of this line so that it can connect directly with the one below it. So every 2 groups of electric pole, like rows of electric mining drills which are connected to one transport belt, let's just talk about the belts. Every 2 rows of belts can be connected, but then 2 adjacent pairs of belts can only be connected by this strange behavior. But in order to get the 2 connected, we need, I feel like this is way too wordy. Just do what I'm doing. Hopefully it made sense already, but basically every alternating pair of transport belt, we have to do that weird configuration. And so these will be close to each other, not separated by any belt. These will be separated by 2 belts, and then these won't be separated by belt in order so that they can reach each other. Alright, that was a lot of blabbing. I don't think it really even accomplishes my point, which was to try to explain it well, but close enough. Now let's kind of take off this stuff. I don't think we'll need any more iron before this gets set up. Okay, just in case we do, I'll leave these 2 going and just fill them with coal. Now, we need to run our power lines back to where there's actually power. So we need to power this new setup. I'm going to do that by running it over here, and then I actually want to run it down from here. Okay, like this. And now what's going to happen is I'm going to be drawing coal, because the 2 things we need for our smelting, which we already know from our independent little mining combos, is 1, we need some kind of ore. So for our first smelting center, we'll want iron ore, and we now can see all this stuff has been activated by the power line. The other thing we're going to want is coal. So we're just making a line, transport belt to ferry down the coal, which very soon will be dumped on it. And now I think we only need 2, but let's just go for 3, and just in case. All right, like I said, we're going to need a lot of transport belts, so let me also get that going in the background. I want to show one change I made to the power as well. I'm actually decided to make another burner inserter so that both of the top 2 will have burner inserters instead of just, I left it with only 1. And I also took off the yellow inserters from the bottom 2, or it was actually from these 2, and I made a new line. And that's because these yellow inserters actually draw power when idle. So we can see there's no power consumption right now except for electric mining drills, which means of course these burner inserters, they don't waste power. And the cool thing is these burner inserters don't drain power even when they're idle. However, yellow inserters do. So you can see on the right panel here, the drain is 400 watts. Now their energy consumption when they're being active is 13 kilowatts, so significantly more. It's 0.4 compared to 13. So, almost 2 orders of magnitude less power usage when they're idling, but it's still something, and it's still, as we can see, a small drain on my power supply. So I decided to just disconnect that while I didn't have any use for the power anyway, just so we wouldn't be slowly draining power for no reason. Yeah, but we can put them back on because now we're going to be actually needing all the power. Good. So, next step for us, now that we have all this wonderful iron, and I do want to get those 2 labs down because we will need logistics to get a smelting center done well. So some people start off with automation, and that's perfectly fine, but I tend to start out with logistics first. So let's just put the 2 down here, and while we're building our smelting center, we'll let those start to run through. Up here we can see the progress. Let's get going on our smelting center though. So at some point this is going to run, okay, I don't actually know where it's going to run. Let's just start making it here. Let's just start it right below here. It's where we'll start making our stuff. So let's make it right, maybe 1 lower. And I'm going to do the same thing, even though this is only 2 tiles wide, so technically an electric pole can go a lot further than it needs to. I'm still going to do this 1 stone furnace to bookend, then 2 2 2 2 2 all the way down. And we're going to make 12 stone furnaces per side. All this stuff, whoops, can't do it that way. Might not make sense yet. I actually want to do it this way, it'll be easier to tell. Oops, too many, 1 space. So I want 12, so I start with 1, then I want 5 pairs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a bookend again. Put our power lines down. Okay, good. And the reason why we want these power lines like this is just so we can always power the inserters, which we're going to need powering. And we're also going to be dumping. So this outline, not outline, but this outside line, outside transport belt, is going to be bringing our inputs for the smelting center. And we're going to dump it onto an output line in the middle. So we'll just go ahead and add this on both sides, like so. Couple more. And there we go. Whoops, one too many. Now we need the actual output line. I didn't finish making, we don't need the output line above. We don't need it to go above the the highest up inserter. This is our input line, so we need this to go down to our last inserter. And we can do the same thing on this side. So well, let's actually just do it this way. I like to do the electric poles first because my favorite thing to do, really, I get a lot of pleasure out of being able to just run and drop these stone furnaces down without thinking about where they're being put. There we go. So we're left with this few stone furnaces too, which we're not going to be using. We don't need for this smelting center, but then it's too few for another entire smelting center. The only things we're missing here are, okay, look good, logistics finished. So we'll get automation going next, which means we'll make some more of that while we're just doing all this. Here's our other input line, and then we need all these going. It looks like we're going to need some more inserters, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I need 24 per side. 12 times 2, right? Shouldn't be very difficult math. We have 12 stone furnaces. Each of them needs 2, 1 to input, 1 to output. Okay, yeah, we're stuck there. That's fine. We'll go ahead and we'll finish that in a second. But the good news is that with this logistics, the very important thing we were able to secure for ourselves is the ability to do underground belt, which we're going to need, and more importantly, splitters. We really, really, really need splitters. Okay. More so than I need inserters right now. We can figure out those inserters later. Okay, let's go ahead and drop here, and come on, wait for you to finish. There. Okay, that's the 10 we'll need for automation, and then we'll just leave research alone for a while. Now, let's get more inserters, and oops, not that chest, I don't need that. And a few more underground and splitters. Okay, now I'm going to start also organizing my inventory the way I usually like it, which is underground here, splitters here, and I'm going to middle click just to lock those in so that nothing else will take their place. I'm sure we'll take the inserters there as well. Everything else can change eventually, but those are the ones I actually want exactly where they are. And we finished that pretty quickly, so I'm just going to get a whole bunch of inserters and then the usual deal, make a whole bunch of electronic circuit, and you know what, all the rest of that will go to gear wheels in the meantime. Okay, so now to finish this off, what we need is some splitters here, and I think we'll do it, how do we want to do it? Okay, so just close that, escape out for the moment. We're going to come in, drop, spin up, so it goes like this, and like this. You're going to see what we're going to do here in a moment. For now, it'll just be kind of a mystery. Basically, we're going to come in with iron ore, so like so. I think that might have been one too far. Yeah, it was one too far. We're going to have it go underground to the other side of this. We're going to have it turn, go up. And then that iron ore is going to be split half to this side, half to this side. But importantly, it's only going to stay on one side of the transport belt. And why that's important is because the other side of the transport belt is going to be occupied with coal. Remember, these smelters only need, these stone furnaces need two things. One type of ore, something to smelt basically, and then they need coal for their power supply. But these inserters are not, they're not filter inserters. They will take anything which their input needs. So in this case, the input needed here is both coal and iron ore. So we put that on the transport belt. They'll grab both of those things as they're needed. Now let's go ahead and I think I need to do one more. So it has to be here, yeah. So now we want to run the coal line, which I don't know. Okay, it should stop there. Let's just bring it down now. Get these two things done, and then we'll go ahead and blueprint it if we have enough time as well. So the coal is coming down on this side, and now we need to actually get the iron ore. Looks like we're still producing that stuff. That's good. I'm actually going to want a whole bunch of splitters and a few more underground belts as well. And we'll soon have more than enough iron. So what I'm going to do here is combine these two. So although this is a good dimension. I have 6 on this side and 7 on the bottom side. So this line has a total of 6.5 electric mine drills per side. In order to saturate our stone furnaces here, I think we need about 10. But we're going to need a lot more than that to saturate when this becomes steel furnaces and, basically, and by the way, we can see the coal is now working perfectly. We didn't establish power. Okay, let's get power going too. Good. So this is going to combine two different lines of the electric mining drills together into one line by doing this and then just taking the output here. We ran out of transport belt. Look at that. But since we already built a whole bunch of gear wheels, it doesn't take any time at all to get going. And voila, we're done. So I like to have 12 total electric mining drills per line I'm feeding to a smelting center. That's really overkill in the very beginning. But later on, that's actually how many we need, I think, to satisfy steel furnaces. Now don't quote me on that. I could be off by a slight amount. In fact, it's kind of weird. I don't know why I didn't choose. Yeah, this is tricky. I don't want this electric mining drill to get... We can see it takes this strange form when it has the ability to do uranium mining. Now I wonder... Okay, good. It will just do iron ore by itself. I've never actually tested that, so we need some more of these. We're really getting low on copper and, well, I guess more so on iron. But the good news is the iron is now being produced. And the one thing I forgot to do down here, I hope this isn't too spazzy of an episode. We're going to, eventually this will become part of the main bus, but just for now, we're going to put stuff into wooden chests. One here, one here. And now we can just come down here, or you know what, we can just hold F to hoover it up off the main line. Yeah, we want these things. Oh, and look, we forgot to feed the rest of this yellow inserters. We can get those going now that we've made them. And voila, the smelting center is done and producing iron for us, just as we would hope. So that's actually quite a lot of iron plate. We can make a whole lot more stuff with all that extras, all those goodies. We're gonna need some copper pretty soon here. But that's it. This is our smelting center. It's done. So like I was going to say here is eventually we'd rather this bottom one feed here and the second two we have up here, the second pair that's this current line, will feed to an identical smelting center just right of the original one we have here. So instead of having to manually put down everything, remember where it goes, let's start to talk about blueprints. So right now I have smelting 2, which is actually exactly what this one is. Let's go ahead. I erased everything else. So let's go ahead and erase this one. And let's just blueprint it. hit B, go to new blueprint, and what we want to do, hit E to get rid of that screen, is now we're going to highlight what exactly we want as part of this. And I'm going to grab that splitter. I don't need to grab actually above the splitter, just this. We're going to go down and grab all of this right to the very end right there. And we left click to drag that, and then now we're going to let go of the mouse. And there it is, a blueprint. And it looks like that's the input. Here's the output. It's perfect. That's everything we need, which actually shows us 102 transport belt, 48 inserters, 24 etc., etc. Now we can actually rename this. So let's just call it once again some smelting toot for tutorial there. And there it is. Now we can lay it down again. And what I actually do want to do is lay it down right next to where we already had it. Then the reason why I like to put these, let me just get rid of that for a second. The reason why I put my electric poles on the outside closer to the input lines rather than putting them, like you could just as easily have put them here instead of here. They can go in either tile where the stone furnaces are. The reason why I put them towards the outside is so that two smelting centers can have a space of 2 between them with these small electric poles, which gives me a little bit of a way of breaking up the stone furnaces. Just aesthetics. I like this little area where you can just run between, or you can put concrete down here, maybe make it a driving path. The car won't quite fit here, but at least it won't be running into the stone furnaces or steel furnaces. If you have them down, it won't be running into the poles. So I like to leave a little space every now and then. I think it looks better, and it's nice to be able to run without being stuck running against transport belt if you're running top to bottom. So if you're going down, yeah, go on the belt because it'll be faster. But if not, then don't. So we put down 4 for our. I like having 4 lines of iron plates for my main bus. This is increased over time. Like originally I was just doing 2. I think that was what I did on my previous series, but now I'm deciding that 4 is better for your main bus, and I'll show the main bus in the next episode. But what we've done in this one is learn how to do blueprints. I mean, we also set up our electric mining setup, and then we got that ore, which we're now starting to produce, to move into a smelting center. So we got our smelting centers up. So everything's looking good. We can call this episode to a close, and off camera, what I'll do is probably set up all the electric mining drills on copper, get copper set up, and then I might actually put in another smelting center here and one over here. So what I think it's going to look like is a space 2, 1, and then another one here. Whoops. Okay, fantastic point. If you make a mistake like I did, just grab this red deconstruction planner and highlight the area you want to remove, and then it gets rid of the blueprint. Just a note, sometimes you'll put like a red blueprint near trees, and when you highlight, it gives this red X to the trees. Because the blueprints are really signals for bots. They're not, I mean, we use them as just like a planning tool, but they're technically an order for bots to come and place stuff where the blueprints are. And here we're telling the bots to erase these trees. If you want to get rid of that little graphical artifact, which I like to do, it's a little bit, I mean, it disrupts my vision in a way. Just hold shift when you highlight with the red, and that'll clear the order to clear those trees. So there's your tutorial on that. Last thing is we're going to open up B and see that there's no blueprint, which I had in this like blueprint, like universal blueprint. You carry this from game to game. The reason it's not there yet is because I need to click on the blueprint I have and drop it into export to the blueprint library. Now that I've done that, I can actually okay, so first of all, we look, it's here, blueprint. That's not a very good name, so I forgot, it doesn't rename it when you first do it. You have to do it after it's already made. So now we'll call this smelting tutorial. And now it'll be there, it's called smelting toot, so we can actually get rid of this one. So we just check B, it's there, good. And in order to get rid of these, you just right click and you hit this delete button. Now that destroys the blueprint, but if we want it, we just go hit B and click it here. And the reason I don't like to keep it in my inventory is just because it actually does take up inventory space. So you can use a blueprint book to store all of them and scroll through them, but I don't do that until much later in the game. We definitely don't need blueprints right now for anything but just planning as a planning aid. So again, this episode got a little bit longer, but we covered in this one electric mining drills, the setups. We did a little bit of work, like entry work with the labs. We showed our smelting centers, and then we showed how to do blueprints, which is pretty important. So we can blueprint even like the steam power setup. That's not really that difficult, just one boiler for every 2 steam engines. But if you wanted to remember it, you can blueprint it. Remember to drop it into the library thing when you have a blueprint picked up in your cursor. And then it'll appear here, which means that if I go into a new game right now, this will still be in my blueprint library, and I can use it for the next game I'm playing, which is really helpful if you don't remember exactly what was the right ratio of X to Y. You can just save it in your blueprint library and pull that blueprint up anytime you want. Also helps a lot in multiplayer when you're trying to do things quickly, or you just want to show your friends what you've done in a different playthrough. So anyways, like I said, that's going to conclude it for this episode. And now what I will do off camera is the smelting centers. I'll probably store up a little bit of red science so we can get through some of the research we want to do. And I'll get the copper smelting up as well. So thanks for watching, and until the next episode, take care.